And hello everyone, and welcome once again to Diane Writes. Good to see everybody. Hi James, first in the chat as always, which is kind of awesome. And hello Natalia. Hello Twinkle, good to see you. Salut Amelie, ça va aujourd'hui? And hello Dillian, which I still haven't memorized the Estonian for, but I'm gonna try work on it. Awesome. So how is everyone doing today? How is your progress? Where are you guys at with what you're working on? Do you guys want to talk about that? I don't know, because I'm just kind of going with the flow today. What I'm going to be working on today is, of course, I'm going to do my Patreon edits as I usually do on the show. And I'm going to tilt this camera down just a bit because I'm like, you know, it keeps cutting off my chin, and I think that's weird and I don't like it. But, and hello, Barbarossa. I look great today. Thank you very much. I don't feel like I look great today, so I appreciate the compliment. I could use that today. I'm feeling a little bit dragged down today. Right, posture check. Thank you, but I just checked my posture, really. Oh, nice! Emily says, I've just published my first public article on World Anvil. I'm very happy. It's the one for the Flash Challenge on birthrights. That's awesome. If you'd like us to take a look at it, remember that I do have a channel point reward to redeem showcases or critiques, and I'd love to do that for you, right? Especially because it is your first. That's very exciting. Congratulations. That's awesome. Dillian says, working on my favorite pastime activity, looking at job ads and figuring out which of these things I'm vaguely competent at. Yeehaw! I hate job hunting so fucking much. I hate it. I hate it so much. Right? And Barbarossa redeems a shout out. E-Songbird! Hello, E-Song. Nice to see you. How are you today? James says, I've passed 44k words in my World Anvil world. Is this your showcase day? Yes, this is the showcase day. I insist that I'm going to get some writing done as well today, though. Right? So we're going to alternate sprints and showcases if we have that many showcases. Okay. We got 2 up. Alright, so Emily is sharing her first article for World Anvil, which is awesome. And James is sharing. He says, this is a game article. I recommend viewers and Sable to have 66 so that you can simulate the 2-player variant. There is a roll button in the article. I don't know if I want to play through the whole thing, James. I love you, but I don't know. Okay. Dillian says, it's even extra fun when you're looking at job ads in the different country. And you have to hope that they're willing to take someone who can't speak the local language. Yeah, that's kind of rough. That's kind of rough. Yeah. Get an online job is my advice. Emily says, though it's a bit long, so you can only do the first part if you prefer. Okay. Barbarossa says, I've been making shout-outs to E-Song for the past few days, just hoping that she would find one. So we will be actually writing during Diane Writes. Got it, says E-Song. That is my plan. I'm sorry, guys. I'm really behind on a bunch of shit that I need to get done. So I kind of need to do it. Right? I'm sure you guys understand. Yeah. Thanks. It's a short game, but I get you. Okay. Yeah, Amelie can probably relate to this, right? Dillian, that's so annoying. And CV has to be written differently depending on the country, too. And it's difficult to find the info sometimes. Yeah, that's legit. I'm really disappointed, says Natalia. I had an edit lesson today. It was just 1 hour of an advertisement for the company. Okay. Alright, so clearly we're going to need to have a Diane Writes program on editing. That's what we're going to have to do. We can do that. We can do that. Yeah, love the healthy boundaries. Go get the things, Sable. We are here to support you. Thanks, E-Song. I appreciate that. Dylan says, I luckily have friends in Denmark, which is why I'm going there in the first place, so at least I'll have help. That's cool. Emily says, like putting a picture on your CV, in some countries it's almost mandatory, but in the UK they say you absolutely can't, since it's a possible source of discrimination. Moonflower says, I'm sorry, but what? Diane's words went in one ear and out the other, apparently. Oh, okay, I'm sorry, Moonflower, what is confusing you? Let me try to help. Yeah. And now we're discussing the difficulties of job hunting, which and job hunting in a different country, which is something I've never done. I probably would have an easier time getting a job in a different country. Natalia had a really crappy experience with someone who said they were going to help them edit, says Esong. So Sable is saying that she should step up and fill some spots and gaps to try to support the group. That's exactly what I meant. Was that the part? First thing I heard was disappointed, says Moonflower. You know how Natalia was talking about that edit lesson last night that she was really looking forward to? Well, apparently it was just a marketing scheme for a company. They were trying to advertise their editing services. Okay. So, yeah, before we get started, okay, so there is a whole industry out there that is designed to bilk indie authors. That's their plan. That's their business model, right? Stuff like that is one of those things, right? Okay, so let's talk about what you would be looking for in an editor, okay? Right? Okay, first of all, a lot of indie authors do moonlight as editors because it's often a more stable source of income than the writing itself, which is, it's fair, right? But that being said, you want somebody who actually has some experience at it, right? And you want someone who isn't trying to upmarket you all the time, right? That's the first thing. It's like if you go into the computer store and you're going to buy a computer and you're looking for, I need a laptop that's going to do a basic word processing program. You are not particularly impressed when the asshole tries to upsell you to, the gaming center for, online games, right? That's not what you came for. You're there for a basic computer, right? Likewise, be wary of any editing company that tries to upsell you with anything. Oh, and we also do marketing packages. Yeah, fuck off. I'm not here for your marketing packages. I'm here for your editing, okay? Right? Then consider the kind of edits that you want, because different edits mean different things, right? I'll probably do this again in another lesson, but okay, just Google types of editing, because I don't want to spend a whole session on that right now. I will do a special episode that's all about editing, and then we'll go over the different types of edits. But what most people think of it as editing is stuff like line editing, right? Which is where we correct your grammar and your spelling, right? And you need that, but I mean, that's the thing that when people edit their own work, they're often best at doing themselves. So you may not need that. More importantly is things like developmental edit, right? Where, you have someone with fresh eyes look at your story and tell you, this feels like I don't feel the tension here. This pacing's a little slow. This, you could do more with this scene. Or often, this is not how this technology actually works, right? That's a big thing. Writers are not scientists, right? And often we don't know how something works. Or things like, maybe you've never been on an airplane, right? Lots of people have never been on an airplane, but they have to write about the characters being on an airplane. So they don't know all the little things about being on an airplane, and a good editor will catch that shit. right? For a developmental edit or a content edit, right? Which could be what that's called, right? Or if you're doing like a historical novel, they'll check your dates and information, right? And that stuff is more difficult, so it's more expensive. And it's also time consuming, so it's more expensive, right? And maybe you don't need all that, right? But know what you need and then go get that. And if they can't use that terminology, don't buy their services. Also, read something they've edited, right? If you can tell that the writing is stilted and things are, you think it could be better, right? An editor went through that, So yeah, just, it's so hard, especially when you're just starting to explore these services because you don't really know what you're looking for and you don't know what questions to ask. Maybe I will get Author Goddess and possibly my friend J.I. Rogers on too, and we'll talk about it, right? Because, the things you learn the hard way, maybe you can prevent other people from having to learn the hard way, right? And, we went to the school of hard knocks. So, anyway. Yeah. And try to explain what your degrees mean when your studies are specific to your own country. Yeah, I imagine, Emily, that's difficult. Okay. Yeah. Esong says, technology beta readers. Barbarossa says, developmental and plot editing is super important in the late stage of writing. You have no idea how helpful it can be to finish off a book knowing that your plot makes sense and that your ending will be satisfying as well as answer all your plot holes. Yeah, that's true. Laria, hello, good to see you, says, almost nobody cares about inertia in fiction. Yeah, that's true. Barbarossa says all the Chekhov guns must be fired. I'd say with one exception. The exception is, are you going to fire it in a later book? Is this intended to be a series, and are you going to fire it in a later book? Because, maybe you're not setting it up for this book. Maybe that's intended for the next one. Tolkien did it. If you're intending to write it as a series, it's an overall story arc. You might get to it in book 3, and that's okay. Hey, Stretch, good to see you. Yeah, Weirdwin says I actually bring up inertia, which is a good point. Tell J.I. Rogers I said hi, says Barbarossa. Her session with you was super cool. She is super cool. I really like talking with her, especially because she doesn't always agree with me, which is fun. Esong says, yeah, in fantasy even points out Weirdwin and hello, which is good. My general rule for speculative fiction is physics work until they don't, right? So I, as much as possible, I try to conform to the laws of physics as they actually work in our reality. And when I break them, I do it consciously, and I know the rule I'm breaking, and I decide that in this universe there's a different rule, or there's a reason why the rule has changed, right? So that's, and I believe that if you do that, then your work has, it's easier to suspend disbelief, and your reader becomes more immersed in it. But on the other hand, if you're writing a fantasy novel, we do not need a detailed explanation of the laws of gravity, right? Unless that's part of your plot. Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah, it is, says Natalia. I just wanted to have some extra tools for the toolbox. It cannot hurt you to learn how to do a good edit. There's another thing. Maybe I should, there's another, possible course for cat school. Exactly, that's something that I meant to add. If you're writing a trilogy or even more, make sure that the right guns are fired. Exactly. Hello, Daz. Good to see you. Barbarossa says, make sure they're fired satisfyingly. You can't have your guns firing blanks on you. And Weirdward says, if you do fire blanks, remember, they're still dangerous. Speaking of inertia, and that is a great nerd joke, and I wonder how many people in the chat got that. That's freaking hilarious. Firing blanks can still be fun, says Siobhan. You know what? Honestly, being at the range is fun. Okay. Alrighty, Song, thank you. Yes, it's time to get to work. We're going to get to work. We're going to do a 15-minute sprint, and then we're going to do the first showcase. All right? So I'm going to put those showcases up because for some reason on this computer it doesn't let me click on that link once it's in the history. So I'll click on them now to make sure that they are ready, and then we will do sprints to get to them in a few minutes. Alright, so Emily's article is here. Writes surrounding births in the Empire of the Covenant. Ooh. Oh, I'm curious about the Empire of the Covenant. And Sixes, the dice game, is James's article. Alright. Alright, I'm putting up my manuscript, and I will see you in 15 minutes. Let's get it done. Ah! 25 minutes after the hour. If there isn't any ready, you better believe that I'm gonna... Yeah, legit. And for some reason it's not showing the page. I cannot imagine why. I don't understand. Alright, there we go. We are starting part 5, the Battle of Arianrod. I really rather like this part of my book, actually. I'm very excited to get into some editing for this. I like this part. It's very exciting, I think. And I'm setting up a Chekhov gun there, Barbarossa, that's going to be fired in book 2. Ha ha ha. Okay. Alright, let's start with the basic shit. To be fair, though, song, I didn't actually start, actually streaming until, 10 minutes after the hour or something. I had trouble getting my shit together today. She's like, all the better reason to write, and she's right. I didn't even look, but I bet you that's what she said. Because we're each other's accountability partners, and I love it. Alright. I love this part of my book. I totally did not hear the dingy thing. Thank you for the sub, Shy Red Fox. Really awesome to have you back. Rawr! Laura is here. Good to see you, Laura. How are you? I'll catch up a bit once the sprint is done. Pretty good, thanks. It's good to hear. Okay, I was concentrating. I'm sorry, I don't know if the void left behind was up the whole time, because apparently I hit change the window and then it didn't save when I had changed the window, so hopefully it was actually showing, because I'm, I thought I was working on a pretty good part, and I, hadn't read through it for a while, and I still like it almost as much as I did when I first wrote it, so, okay. It means you done good, but, yeah. About 3 minutes left in the sprint, I think. Okay. And the basic bullshit. Sorry about that sudden sneeze. Alright, and that's the sprint, gang. How did you all do? I felt pretty good about what I was doing. I was really focused there for a while. Hello to everyone who came in. Hello, Shy Red Fox. Hello, Laura Bones, the incomparable Shy Red Fox and Laura Bones, who are awesome. Hello, Darth. Good to see you, as always. I don't know if I said directly hi to Moonflower, but hi, Moonflower. I'm sorry you're having a dissociation problem. That's frustrating. Siobhan is here. That's awesome. And 2 calls from doctors. All good news. That's great. You have an appointment in Burnaby on April 1st. Fucking A. All right. It is consult only, but the wheels are turning. This is really good. I'm very happy for you. I'm generally okay with things as they are, as long as they're progressing. I don't really care how slow they're moving, as long as they're moving. So that is really awesome. I'm very excited for you. Yes, there's a new Flash challenge on language. I'm actually really excited about this one. I kind of like conlanging, and I have a language that's actually really important in the Toy Soldier universe that is a dead language. That, you know, I probably have to make up some words for anyway. So, you know, I made a promise to myself this year that I'm not going to get distracted by Flash challenges or, you know, Advent challenges or prompts unless I have a direct and immediate use for them in what I am working on in the Toy Soldier Saga. So, or Weird West, if I happen to be working on that one, right? Exceptions being made, of course, for Summer Camp and World Ember. But you know, yeah. All right. And you know, actually, Esong, I really appreciate your poke in the ribs, right? Because I would just chat all fucking day if I didn't get a poke in the ribs. Yeah, what's happening in Texas is shitty. Yeah, Esong says, I'm doing all right. It's cold here in Chicagoland, but not nearly as cold or miserable as in Texas. Unlike my sister-in-law, the scribe and I still have heat and water. Yeah. Author Goddess's pipes froze yesterday, so that's fun. This is, okay, you know, like, I just... Texas does not have the infrastructure to deal with this kind of weather. And I can see why they wouldn't have invested in it. Because they're in the tropics. Why would you need the stuff we need in Canada? Right? But climate change. I think we're all going to have to plan for all weather now. Sharon Fox says, I've been working on the front page of my book series site and trying to list my book. Scary. Yes, it is, but also exciting, isn't it? Esong is procrastinating responsibilities and working around to prepping for game tonight. Fair enough. Fair enough, but you'll get there. That is okay. That is really okay. Have I missed anybody? Let me know if I missed you. Weirdwin is playing with the dogs for a while. Wishes it was warm enough to walk here, says Sharon Fox. It's warm enough for me to walk today. I think the temperature is about 0. Things are melting. Might be +1. And it's really sunny. I went outside. I'm like, what is this bright thing in the sky? Did we have a nuclear explosion? I mean, I literally haven't seen the sun in months. So, Daz has done their birth article. That's excellent. Gala's article is really easy to read. I'm going to go to the main screen because we're about to start a showcase. No, you know what? I'm actually going to keep... Never mind. I'm going to keep the sprint screen running so I can keep track of how much time has passed. But the dragon's about to growl for those of you who are going back to work. Twinkle Toes says, I'm not sure which project I should work on. I have something small to write and something huge to edit. Right? And Natalia is currently de-stressing. Yeah. Okay. Twinkle, here's my advice. Break up the editing into chunks, like chapters, right? Do a couple of chapters of the editing, set a timer, and use that, then set a timer and then use that time to write. Like, say you're going to write for half an hour, okay? Right? 20 minutes, 15 minutes, you know? I got 15-minute timers right here, right? Write for that long, go back to the editing, right? If you're going to do 15-minute timers, I'd suggest edit a chapter, do a 15-minute spread. Edit a chapter, do a 15-minute spread. If you're going to do half an hour, then do 2 chapters, right? And then you can reward yourself for the editing with the writing. Okay. E-Song says, I like working on small things to give me momentum towards accomplishing large things. I do that a lot too. Amelia started writing on her dead language, then got distracted and started another article on revolutionary technology for the old prompt. Hello, Kayetan, good to see you. Chatting is the fun part of the stream. I'm sort of here for socialization too, but I've got work to do as well. And then I just lost 2 hours trying to find an illustration for my technology article. Amelie, this is the rabbit hole. That is how it works. Yeah. Yeah, I hear you, Twinkle. I got lots of friends in Texas, too. No heating for several days for lots of people. Power outages. Yeah. Yeah, Amelie's advice about doing a scene at a time is a good idea, too. Brutal. I'm really upset for the people of Texas when I'm thinking about the kind of shit they've gone through. Now, I've been through shit like that for very brief periods of time. Not 2 days, right? I've been out of power in the winter with the pipes pretty much frozen in, like, you know, for 6 hours. That was rough. That was rough enough. So that is... You know, I can't even, you know. If anybody can let me know of something we can do to help, I would really like to help. Okay. I get you, Yi-Song. What frustrates me most is the fact that they're getting it on the internet for being a culture with this macho persona that's now begging at 2 inches of snow, and people are ignoring the very real human costs behind the situation. I get it. You know, it is very upsetting. I agree. On the other hand, I kind of get it, right? Alberta is Canada's Texas, basically. They want to be Texas. They think they're Texas. And they, for years, right, were urged to sell their oil to Ontario, right? And Quebec, you know, keep it in the country, right? But here in Canada, every province manages their own resources. That's part of their jurisdiction, right? They're sovereign over their own resources. And they said, nah, fuck you. We're making more money selling it to the Americans. So let the Eastern bastards freeze in the dark. This is a quote from somebody who was a politician in Alberta at the time. And now some 15 years later or something, they can't sell their oil because the prices of oil has dropped around the world, and it's not economical for them to mine their incredibly bad for the environment tar sands anymore. And nobody wants their fucking pipelines, and they're, getting all angry, and they're like, we're struggling here, and people are like, yeah, well, but it's not like it's the people of Alberta's fault, it's their politicians, right? And yeah, it's complicated. 100% Moon, I'm with you. I'm not mad at the Texan people. I'm mad at the Texan government and the Texan infrastructure policies, yes. And Alberta's just like that, right? Extreme Sigh, and hello, I haven't seen you in a while, says, this makes me think of the deep freeze in Houston a few years ago when the city shut down because nobody was able to drive safely because winter tires aren't a thing. Yeah, why would you buy winter tires if you don't think, if you live in the tropics, right? I can't imagine why you would. I wouldn't. I mean, like, if they're expensive. I buy them in Canada, and I save up, and I buy them every 2 years or 3 years, right? Because they're really expensive. I wouldn't buy them if I lived in the tropics. I live in Chicago and I don't buy winter tires, says Esau. Yeah, I have to have winter tires because if I get into an accident and I don't have winter tires, they don't pay for, my insurance doesn't cover me here. So I have to have winter tires. But it's a really difficult expense. I wouldn't buy it in the tropics. Like, I just wouldn't. So, of course nobody has winter tires, right? And, yeah. Yeah, these kind of things, and COVID is why I don't like the idea of small government, says Loria. Yeah. Well, that's the disadvantage, isn't it? Right? Canada tries to have it both ways. And, okay, so in some cases it really helps us because, hey, vaccine distribution to the provinces has been kind of a combined effort. But distribution in the provinces has not. And that's become a bit more complicated, right? Like, the federal government gives money to the provinces to supplement, but they can't do it for them, right? Each individual province has to do it their own way, and some are slower than others, right? And, yeah. 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 James, what you hear about provinces is that each one in Canada is sovereign unto itself and has management over its own health authority and its own resources, right? So different provinces will handle things different ways, and some will do it better than others, right? And that, we try to have it both ways. We try to have a federal and provincial system, and sometimes it works really well, and sometimes it does not. Yeah. Small government is nice and fine when things go well, but eventually things are going to break down. Says Laria. Amelie says, in France, nobody buys winter tires unless they live in the mountains, and we see snow every year. We never spend enough money on snow clearing equipment here in my town because I think we all think we live in the Mediterranean. But what I really think it is that, like everywhere else, we have more wealthy people in our local government than we do poor people, and the wealthy people are all snowbirds and they fuck off to the States during the winter, so they have no idea what living in the winter here is like, right? So they never budget enough for that. Yeah. I'm actually in Alberta, definitely necessary, says Extreme Sigh. I completely agree with buying based on what you experience, though. I'm more referring to you can't give people crap for not having road clearing equipment 98% of the time. That would be wasted expenditures. Yeah, here's the thing, right? And I also see Moonflower's point by prepare a little, I mean keep a little money set aside. Yeah, actually, I think most sovereign governments do that. I just think that in some cases it doesn't help, right? Canada has a reserve of stuff to finance a health crisis, right? We actually have a pandemic plan. But since the United States decided to, destroy our manufacturing industry, then then we paid for a bunch of masks, then they decided we're just going to keep the masks for us, even though, in the States, even though we had already paid for them, and they took our industry, so we can't just make our own. Sometimes money doesn't help you. Right? I was thinking about that today, right? And the fact that most Americans that I know supported that. And I can't ever forget it. I will never forget it. Right? I will never forget it. Oh, I've been to Sherwood Park there, Extreme Sigh. Actually, it's a nice little I guess it's its own independent municipality from Edmonton, but it's nice. It's really cool. I was at a metaphysical store there. I went to it on my book tour. Yeah. Still better than government controlling vaccines centrally. Poland? Maybe. Right? Kajetan sees all the disadvantages of big government, and I see all the disadvantages of little government, and I don't know. I don't know what the right solution is. Okay, I gotta get on with the show here, guys. So we're gonna have a look at Amalé's first World Anvil article, which I'm very excited about. It's for the Flash Challenge. I'm gonna re-put the link in the chat. Thank you for talking with me about the situation in Texas, guys, and about the issues facing us overall. I'm very concerned about people there. Hello, Time Pool! Thank you for the raid! Welcome! Yay! Your timing is good. We're just about to read Amalé's first published World Anvil article. Lorraine is here! Hi, Lorraine! I haven't seen you in a while. How are you? Yeah. Timing is good, pun intentional. Nope, totally subconscious. I just think of Time Pool as Time Pool's name. So, I know that's not their name, but that's what I know them as. Yeah. Lorraine says, doing well. Had an exam first thing this morning. Taking things easier. Well, that's good. Get that shit out of the way. I hope you did well. Thanks, Twinkle. Yeah, it's cool, right? Recognizing I am not responsible for the actions of my government. No, you're not. Right? I'm sorry the US did that. I definitely do not support that shit. And that's awesome, right? And thank you for that. A lot of people online were like, well, yeah, we got to take care of ourselves first, right? That's outright theft, right? And furthermore, we're supposed to be your greatest allies, right? And we defend your northern border for you. And, we're your best customers, and you're gonna just take our shit. And most people online, most Americans online were like, yeah. Okay, I'll remember that. I will remember that till the day I die. I will totally. Yeah. But not everybody did, to be fair. Anyway. Still giving you credit for the pun. It was a good one. Thanks, Esau. Okay, Natalia, have a good sleep. Okay. Yeah, I guess we gotta talk about this a bit, I'm sorry. Okay, Moonflower says, money can't solve everything, but it can help in natural disasters, which I was specifically referring to. Okay, yes, if it's there to get, right? Like, you're right, Texas should have had some money set aside, but I still don't know that we would be able to unfreeze all their pipes, right? And hook them up to the national electrical system quickly enough to help the people who are currently freezing in the cold, is all I was trying to say. Like, yeah, you're right. You're right. They should have planned better. Look. I am not impressed with it is clear that the Texas government has utterly failed their people in this, right? And I'm agreeing with you completely, right? I'm not defending them, right? But what I am saying is that sometimes it's impossible, right? To, like, you know, and I was saying that we made a plan and it didn't help us, right? You know, because money wasn't enough, right? Because you have to be able to rely on things, and sometimes you can't, right? Okay, and then Esong says, and I think this is what Moonflower is referring to too, right? Did the U.S. return the money that had been given by Canada? No, they did not. We had to wait for the next batch, right? And so we waited, and for a while, our first responders did not have enough access to sufficient equipment to, like, and this is PPE I'm talking about, right? And they did not have enough access to it to protect them sufficiently from the job, and I'm sure we lost lives as a result of that, right? So, okay, why did they destroy the manufacturing industry in the first place? Because money! Moonflower, right? They colluded with the Conservative Party, which was in charge of Canada for about, well, several years. It was a long administration under Brian Mulroney, and then there was a long administration under Stephen Harper. And in that time, they relaxed the restrictions, unregulation, learn from our mistakes, right, about American companies having to establish a Canadian branch if they wanted to produce things here, right? And you know, they made it really cheap for Americans to operate here. The Americans, of course, you know, being corporations, took advantage of the situation. They bought out a bunch of our manufacturing industries, and then they shut them all down and moved them to China or, you know, Mexico or wherever the fuck they are, because it's cheaper labor. And, you know, when anything gets cut, it's us first, because they don't care about us at all, right? So now we've learned from this mistake. The federal government is putting a lot of money into subsidizing a bunch of Canadian vaccine and other medical supply manufacturing companies, one of which is in my province. And I'm glad of that, but it never should have happened in the first place, right? Money. It's all about money. Always. Always about money. Yes, I guess that's what I'm saying, Daz. Yes, money doesn't help if there's nothing to buy with the money. Yeah. Yeah. And Twinkle says, U.S. infrastructure is, yeah, better in some states, worse in others, but mostly yikes. And that Moonflower was saying, yeah, thanks, Twinkle, that's what I was trying to say. Yeah. Money, money, money. How can you not say the capitalism is evil, Cayetane? I can't. I'm kind of an anti-capitalist, really. I believe in a very strongly regulated capitalist market myself, which it isn't, because if you want capitalism to work, here's what you have to do, okay? You have to make it impossible for corporations to give money to politicians. That is the only way in which it can be done, because otherwise, of course, there's going to be conflict of interest. Furthermore, you should probably forbid politicians from having stocks at all, right? And if you did that, then all the regulations that have existed would be applied, and corporations would not be running everything, because they'd all be broken up into smaller little companies and watched. Money, money, money. Okay. Yeah, I agree with you, actually. Extreme Size says, same thing is currently happening on our national vaccine orders, if I understand the situation correctly. Yes, we keep getting shorted on our orders. We buy 15,000 doses and we get 10,000, right? Because America first, right? Of course, I wouldn't advocate Canada getting everything over other countries either. You know what, though? Right? The difference is our country bought 9 times the vaccine we would need, right? A, to supply us, right, sufficiently and make sure the supply would be there, okay? But B, to donate the rest of it to other countries who cannot afford to keep up with the vaccination plan, right? And why do we do that? Because it's in our best interest. If everybody is vaccinated in the world, we're safe. Until everybody in the world is vaccinated, we are not, right? Humanity is connected, right? If you ever want to see another country again, you kind of have to make sure they're safe to be in, right? So, yeah, that's the difference. I see the same thing is happening in France. I'm sorry to hear that, MLA. And I agree with you, Moonflower. That is the least that they could have done. It's not nice of Canada, actually, MLA. I don't think it is. I think it's just common fucking sense. I think that... okay. Yeah, it's just common sense, right? We have to do that because the way our world structure works, we can't survive alone. All right, well, yes, ma'am, let's do it. Okay, rights surrounding the births in the Empire of the Covenant. I'll repost the link again. Yeah, E-Song is trying to say get reading. She's right, too. Sorry about going off on the soapbox, guys. I didn't realize how angry I was about this whole selfish attitude, right? This whole, and the same thing is now hurting the people of Texas. I'm so mad at these people. People are going to die because of the selfishness of other people, because money. It makes me so angry. Yeah. Okay. General elements regarding ceremonies and rituals. This makes me happy, so I'm going to concentrate on this now. Ceremonies and magical rituals accompany the inhabitants of the Empire during all the different stages of their lives. That sounds cool. The principal ones are bondings, conceptions, births. Oh, bondings like marriage, okay. I like that you've got a term that isn't marriage. That's nice. Conceptions, births, presentations, adoptions, and funerals. Whether a simple ceremony or a full magical ritual is performed will mainly depend on the political beliefs of the participants. With the Light Mages' disapproval of rituals having increased in recent decades, the Light and Dark factions are the two main political parties of the Empire. They also designate categories of magic favored by each group, with crafting being considered light and rituals dark. Okay. The participants' power levels can also influence their choice to perform rituals, as they generally require a lot of magic. That makes sense. Yet their family and local community can come together to assist them in raising enough magic for even the few individuals in the Empire who do not have access to magic of their own to perform a ritual. In practice, the ceremonies will use similar gestures and words as the rituals, but they will not invoke ritualistic elements, i.e. a temporal pattern such as courtship magic. Courtship rituals are an important tradition during which the suitors of the person being courted have to take part into different ceremonies to show off their compatibility. These ceremonies usually take place over a year during the solstices and equinoxes and solstices. By the way, Amelie, can I... You're like, this is your first article? This is fucking great. This makes sense. I love your tool tips. You're doing a great job here. Okay, or a connection to the magic of the environmental, like ancestral magic, also called lands magic. As people leave a trace of their magic behind when they die, several generations living in the same place imbues that location with a magic that can be called upon by their descendants for protection and advice. Have you studied real-life magic systems? Because it seems to me like you've got a lot of sense of the, the kind of connections that people make with magic. This is cool. Well, thanks to the creation of the empire, there's been a lot of cultural exchanges between the different regions. The country is still spread over a whole continent, and as such, there is a very wide variety of local traditions that will affect the exact wording and the ingredients used during ceremonies and rituals. Nevertheless, some commonalities can be drawn. And then here we have an artistic picture. Oh, wow! This is great! Adapted with images from Vecteezy, and you put together this cycle graphic using clip art, basically. That is amazing! Birth, presentation, adoption, funeral, bonding, conception. Wow! I love your art. Okay. Before the birth, conception. Children are mainly obtained through sexual relationships. However, if partners are unable to conceive together, they have several solutions. 1. They can use simple spells to boost both partners' fertility. 2. Require the assistance of a surrogate mother. Use a difficult ritual to create a child from partners of the same biological gender, or for whom fertility spells are not enough. Thank you for thinking of that in a fantasy setting. That's awesome. Or 3, use an even more complicated ritual to create a magical artificial womb for the duration of the pregnancy, regardless of the biological gender of the parents, or the partners. However, an enormous amount of magic is necessary to conduct these rituals, and to carry an artificial womb for months requires access to an even bigger and continuous source of magic. For these reasons, those rituals are not accessible to everyone. So, like in our world, sometimes that stuff's available, but usually you have to have money to access it. Okay. A potential solution is to ask for the help of family and community members who can help in raising more magic, although this means having intercourse in front of the other participants of the rituals, and so it is not for everyone. Yep. If you're thinking of things like Great Rite and Actual among Wiccans, right, in some covens that do practice Great Rite and Actual, which are the vast exception, by the way, you talk to 95% of witches and they don't do it anymore, right? Maybe 5% do, right? And of those, usually only occasionally. But I've been in situations where people have, turned their back and music has played. They're in the circle, but they're facing outside, right, and they've got a veil over their face, perhaps, to give the partners some modicum of privacy. So that could be a way to approach that. Yeah, okay. The rest of the rituals involve specific mineral-based and plant-based pastes and paints to trace rune diagrams, crystals to place on top of the tracing, candles, and incense. Incense is spelled like this. I'll help you with that. I'm not editing too hard right now, right? So, okay. Yeah, an incense to burn, and chants used to harmonize all participants' magic and to direct the effects of the rituals. For the houses ruling the estates, the independent states that makes the federal empire, okay? The conception of an heir is very important. As powerful mages have a lifespan of several centuries, having heirs who have to wait a long time to gain their inheritance can create conflict and destabilize the house. Nevertheless, when the head of the house can die in battle at any time, it is also important to conceive the next heir as soon as possible, or the house may lose control of the estate or become extinct. And there is the problem with feudalism right there. There's the big flaw. Pregnancy. Bonded parents will all come together every day during the pregnancy to meditate and focus their magic on the bond and around the fetus. This includes not only the two parents who gave their genes to the baby, but also all the other partners involved in the bond, if there are any. That's nice. You're thinking about multiple relationships. That's cool. If the baby is born by a surrogate mother, she will be included in the ceremony. However, the conception of babies does not only occur among bonded couples, although it is believed that the magic of the bond can stabilize and feed the baby's magic and increase their future power level. For unbonded couples, the ceremonies and rituals will be the same, with the addition of steps designed to further stabilize their magical link with the baby. Makes sense? For the ruler of the estates, an essential issue during the pregnancy is to ensure that the future heir will have a very strong link with the magic of the house and the land, so that they will be able to perform their duties in the estate. That's cool. So bond of land, the ruler is the land. That's neat. In practice, this means that the person bearing the heir cannot leave the estate for the length of the pregnancy. That's brutal. This is an element of strategic importance for the enemies of the house. Yeah, I'd think so. Because that means that they have something they absolutely cannot leave and must defend, right? They have death ground, in death ground fight. Examples of objects can be used in rituals with Art Breeder and Unsplash. Wow. Kind of blown away by your work here. Birth. Birth rights. Depending on the danger of the birth and the wealth of the parents, the birth will be attended by healers with highly developed healing magic or by local people with knowledge of herbs and medicine. Birth should always take place on ancestral land so that the baby can be properly welcomed. You're missing a D there, just FYI, at the end of welcome, into the house's magic and form a connection with it. The baby will also typically take that house's name and become a dependent of that house's lord or lady. Because of this, which side of the family is chosen is very important and fiercely disputed, no kidding. And this is a decision that is made during the bonding, or for unbounded parents, unbound, or unbinded, one of the two, right, at the start of the pregnancy. If the parents wish to perform a birthing ritual, they will gather their family and local community in a similar ritual as during the conception. The assembly will surround the pregnant person. I love how you're totally not gendering the pregnant person, by the way. That is really well done. Good for you. I approve. Right? The assembly will surround the pregnant person with their magic in the hope of helping them replenish their own magic supply so as to facilitate their natural healing. This is also thought to encourage the baby to come out into the world, as being separated from the bubble of magic formed by the placenta is traumatizing. Yeah, I bet. I mean, it's traumatizing just to be born anyway, I'm sure. You're comfy, and you're warm, and everything's cool, you have the soothing rhythm, you know, and then all of a sudden, there's noise, and you're getting squished, and there's pain as things are wrapped in the wrong way, and then all of a sudden, there's this fucking light in your eyes. Ah! Okay. Adoption. Adoption is considered, you need an ED there, to be a rebirth. Oh, that's cool. With the corresponding ceremonies and rituals needing to be performed to welcome the new children into the house's magic. Oh, that's great. Example of ritual ground prepared for a ritual with images from Art Breeder and Unsplash. That is excellent. You even researched the meanings of the runes, didn't you? After the birth, the first year. For their first year, babies are kept surrounded in family magic, mostly by being held by their parents and the parents' partners, but also by staying inside their house's land and home. It is considered important for babies to participate in the forest solstice and equinox rituals occurring directly after their birth. Special adjustments are made to allow them to consume some of the food and drinks harvested from the land for the rituals. Okay. You could, I suppose, like put dirt on their heads and make the connection that way if you wanted. And you know what? Babies eat dirt. They eat a lot of dirt. What often we'll do when we're doing group rituals, and say at a pagan festival or whatever, and there's babies there, right? And say we've got the blessed food and drink, we'll put it on their forehead, right? Or touch it to their lips, but not necessarily have to eat it. We also do this for people, say we're using ritual wine, right? But somebody is, not drinking, right? And they don't want alcohol to touch their lips, or to they don't want to drink alcohol, so we'll just touch a drop to their lips and move on, right? So there's ways to do it. You don't have to force them necessarily to eat it. I'm just throwing that out there in case you want it. There's nothing wrong with what you've done here. And that's a sprint if you're using the sprint timers. And now we're at the break, 5 minutes. But anyway, I'm just offering that to you because you seem to be drawing a lot of stuff from the real world and, the way in which, magic is typically done in the real world. So I can, not that it has this dramatic effects, but, there's a certain internal logic to it, and I'm offering you what we do. Okay, presentation. Unless the baby is from the house ruling the estate, an important ceremony, you've got plural there, not intended, right, is for them to be presented to the local ruler or a member of their house representing them. During this presentation, the baby is exposed to and connected with the magic of the house and the land. This allows the babies to be protected and nourished by that magic so long as they will live in the estate, and in turn be able to nourish the land and help it prosper. The presentation is also the baby's official naming ceremony. Typically, a ritual is used to link the land's magic to a water basin. One too many S's there. In most cases, a fountain in the ruler's manor, before the baby is completely immersed into the water, so sort of like a baptism. If the house is ancient and powerful, the potency of the magic may be enough for the water to cure any infection or weakness caused by the birth. That's one of the reasons why that was done, right? Although this does not extend to genetic diseases. While presentations normally take place on the same day, once every month, for all the babies born in the interval, benevolent lords and ladies will organize additional ceremonies when a baby's life is at risk. For lords and ladies unwilling to perform rituals, the same gestures and wordings will be used, but because the connection between the water and the land's magic is not renewed beforehand, its healing properties are much reduced, though not completely non-existent is the word you're looking for there. But that's really interesting. I'm getting a feel here. Okay, a couple of things, right? I'm just going to make sure you haven't said anything. Tell Siobhan that she's awesome and I said hi, says Barbarossa. Okay. I'll consider the eating dirt bit, says Emily. I even have an explanation why Nordic runes work and the Latin alphabet is not as efficient. Do you? I'd love to hear it. That's cool. Okay, the mouth is the most developed sensory tool until the baby gets older. Yep. Babies eat so much dirt, says Twinkle. Yep. Yes, for the meaning of the runes, I looked at that. Wow, good for you, Emily. In this world, they would have their own runes, but I have stories based on alternative versions of our world, and for those, I use the Nordic runes. I stole that too. So, my theory, by the way, I use elements of Norse and Celtic legend to inform my elves and my orcs and their culture, right? And my explanation for where there are differences is either the humans learned it from the elves, because the elves were there first, right? Or they have like a divide in the evolution of the pantheon, so the details may be different for their different gods, but basically it's the same god. It's kind of like, different gods are worshipped in different ways depending on where you are, right? So, okay, awesome. Now, I was going to ask questions here, right? Yeah, okay. Extreme Psi has comments. Both the intro and conception sections imply that magic power level is important to the success of childbearing, with cascading tears if it doesn't work. Yeah, I got that feeling too. I think a law article on magic power or some details on how great that gradient in required energy would be interesting. I agree that, yeah, you're probably needing at least one article, a natural law article about how magic works in your universe. Right? Yeah. Sorry, I'm just catching up because it's been a while. I'd get Greg to read this too. Yeah, you could. Bonding, magical marriage resulting in a bond. Well, technically the magic of marriage, why we do the ritual, is supposed to have that effect anyway. Right? But... And that's the Dragon of Productivity. If you would like to get back to work. I'm glad everyone's okay with my soapbox or agrees with me. Thank you very much, guys. It's affirming. No, I got you, Song. I got him and I'm doing them. Okay, I think I've caught up now. Okay, so, questions, right? One is that I'm getting a feel of kind of a tension that exists here between the dark and the light, in the same kind of sense that the Church of the Seven, right, which would be sort of the light, right, they view all this other stuff as pagan ways, right, and the belief in the old gods was in Game of Thrones, right, more like the books than the TV show, right? Am I picking up on that correctly? And the second thing is, right, clearly the estates are in aggressive competition with each other, but the land's power is invested. A lot of the stuff involves staying with the land, connecting to the land, becoming the land. What happens if you don't have a good connection with the land, and if another estate is trying to get your power level, how do they take control of your land, right? With all these magical bonds that bond the people to the land. I'm really curious about that, right? And is that kind of what your plot's about? Because that's fucking cool if that's the case. Right? Extreme Psy says, I'm also trying to think of a suggestion for gender neutrality regarding lords and ladies, since this article appears to promote accessibility. Yeah. Those kind of titles are always so hard, aren't they? I haven't been able to do it. I had to even do it among my elves, right? Give them a lord and lady title. And they don't give a fuck about gender. My elves, gender is, you know, they recognize it's a spectrum, and all identities on that are valid. They take trans people just for granted, like it's, you know, it's expected. They know it's a thing, right? And their view of sexuality is like that too, right? They don't have a pronoun other than the titles of the leaders of a house, right? For male and female, except when they're talking about biological things, right? They don't have it. They, you know, everybody's they, which is why I keep having my characters go, my pronouns are she or they, right? Because they don't really care. So yeah, but even I had to have lords and ladies. And I haven't been able, if you think of a solution, let me know. I've done stats to calculate which percentage of the population will have what power level and to how many people per estate this actually corresponds to, says Emily. Oh my god. Alright, I thought I was a good world builder. You might have me beat here. I'm very proud of that one. Yes, you should be. Remember to add examples of what each level can accomplish. Yes, that should go in your article. Someone after my own engineer heart. Hashtag stats, says Extreme Psy. Yep. Emily says, the conflict between the light and the dark is the subject of the series. Each book will focus on a different character from both sides. That's lovely. And Emily says, yes, I have a character that conquers one of the estates in book 3. Okay, cool. I'm glad that okay, this is excellent because it means two things. One is that you are writing well because I got it. Right? The second is that people will pick up on your intentions here and get interested in the plot. So these are good things to know, and I'm excited about this for you. That's great. Weirdowin says, in one of my settings, the masculine form Lord is used for the person who is mainly in charge of external matters, while the feminine form Lady is used for internal matters. It isn't a gender indicator, but a job indicator. That's interesting. I would switch those myself because for me, the Lord is the microcosm and the Lady is the macrocosm in Wicca. But I get what you're saying. That makes sense. Right? And I feel that way about those deity titles too, by the way, so that's kind of cool. Thank you for that. It's neat. It's a good thought. Lorraine says gender neutral titles are hard in English, and I myself plan on eventually calling mine to strip them of the genderedness. Yes. Amelie says I have Lord, Lady, Heir, Heiress, Goodman, Goodwoman, and either Scion or Seer. But I think I confused myself with the last one in the book. Right? And no feminine equivalent for that one yet. And yes, I'm trying to think about possible alternatives for non-binary people, but I have nothing yet. Yeah, I know, right? I'm really struggling with it. I've decided to accept it. In that, but I'm still looking for a gender neutral version in between, just because like in when it comes to noble houses, the inheritance and the succession is important, right? So I'm like, well, they clearly need somebody who is the mother and somebody who is the father. Their gender is probably irrelevant to that, but the biological process probably isn't. I don't have magical artificial wombs here, so I think it's a cool idea, right? I love the way I'm learning some things. I may go back over this and try to pick up more ways to be gender neutral myself. Why not inventing the word them? I use them and they as my default pronoun, right? In the whole thing, right? But I think I mean it more as a job title in that respect. The only problem is that it has also infiltrated my military. I'm trying to come up with an alternative. Yeah. Yeah, that's another solution. Kayatan says you can call everybody Lord, just tie it to the land, not the person. Except the only problem is, why should we call everyone Lord? Why don't we call them all Lady instead? But, see, I bet you were resistant to that. If I addressed you as Lady Kayatan, you would probably be offended, right? And the reason why is because we have different connotations associated with the different genders, right? And it might be unaffirming to be called Lord if you strongly identify with Lady, right? Now, in another language, this might be irrelevant. Yeah, not offended, but it would feel strange. Let's see. How can I express this in a short form without getting on a big soapbox? Anybody calls me a lady, they'll be picking up their teeth, says Stretch. Even if I was female, I'd be no lady. Well, that's true. But, okay, here's the thing. We perceive women as lesser. This is a cultural thing. How do I know this? Right? Because you'd be offended if I called you lady, right? You'd be, well, Kayatan would not, but it would feel strange, right? Pussy is an insult, right? And throwing like a girl is an insult. Sorry, I don't perceive women as lesser. Thank God, Kayatan, and I hope that this is improving. But there's still that connotation, and it is embedded in the language, right? And this is why there was a big movement for a while, right? To try to change the spelling of things like women, right? Because we're trying to change the connotation of the language, but it's really hard when it's baked into a culture, you know? And, you know, I keep saying that the basic, I'm going to end it here, but you get my point, right? Whether you agree with my point or not, you understand that this is a thing. Yeah, dick is also an insult. Yeah, it is, but it's a different insult, right? If you call a man a bitch, what are you calling him, right? If you call a woman a bitch, what are you calling her? It means different things, right? And you know it does, right? So, and my job as a writer of English is to try to use the right word, because that's really the key. English is full of words with a lot of different connotations. Even though technically they mean the same thing, they don't have the same feel, right? And picking that word can be important. So it's a thing. I keep saying, I'll just end it here. You know what I mean, right? And I believe that we will have gender equality when you throw like a girl and you're a pussy cease to be insults. Okay? When those are not insults, then we have gender equality. Until then, we do not. Anyway. And I'm sorry you're frustrated with the interface there, Stretch. Anyway, I'm almost finished Amelie's article, and I'm glad that this is a provoking discussion. I'm not saying I agree with this perception. Actually, the perception tends to really piss me off personally, and at one point made me question my gender, right? I decided that in my case, it was not actually a different gender identification other than I'm not, like, I describe myself as demigender female primary. Feel free to look up what that means, right? But really it's about the cultural expectations that are heaped on me because of my apparent gender, right? And and that's not the case for every person with questions about their gender, obviously, right? I'm not saying that, but in my case, that's what it was. It was my champing at these cultural assumptions and expectations and the low-grade contempt that the whole culture holds for people like me. So, and I'm still fighting it, right? Which is why I am a gender rights activist. It has nothing to do, I'm not even describing it as feminism, it's gender rights, period, right? You express whatever gender is comfortable for you, and you have a right to do that, and screw everybody else. Okay. Alright. Beyond the first year, that is a nice picture. I immediately get a feel of the kind of thing that your world is from this picture. Strangely, this actually sort of reminds me of a place in the town that I live, only not quite, right? If you were in, Siobhan confirmed with me, standing at the where the clock face is at Polson Park. Does this remind you just a little bit of Polson Park? Obviously, we don't have any big fancy castles like that in Vernon, BC, but I'm thinking of kind of the view of the courthouse has a similar perspective, so I immediately liked it. I don't know. Anyway, beyond the first year, once the first 4 solstices and equinoxes have been celebrated, the baby is allowed to visit the other sides of their family to be formally presented to them and exposed to their magic. I see, so they give it like 2 years to really identify. Okay. And I was right at the end of the article. I'm sorry. I wouldn't have stopped there if I'd known I was right at the end. This is really cool, Emily. I think this is next level. I can't believe this is your first article on this platform. I am going to follow your world, because if the rest of your stuff is that quality, I'm here for it. And one more time, just because we did spend so long on it, I will send you the article link. What did Automod mod? Gender fluid? Fuck you, Automod. Wow. Okay, I'm actually right pissed off about it now, and I think it's time to complain. Possibly due to political reasons. I don't give a shit. That's outright censorship. That's an identity, right? I can understand the word gay being moderated, which it is, by the way, by Twitch's Automod, right? Because, you know, stupid young gamers call everything gay. It's gay, and that's an insult too. And we'll have LGBTQIA equality when that stops being an insult, by the way. So, but that really actually genuinely pisses me off. How are people supposed to describe themselves if they can't use the word gender fluid? That is fucking bullshit. Thank you very much for accepting it, Siobhan. I have no idea what the hell is. We should complain. We should start a petition, actually. I'm almost mad enough to do it. You guys talk me into it, I'll do it. I'm tired of them auto-modding LGBTQIA terms. Elan and Elana, they're Siobhan, but Elanette, is that what you're saying? Elani is the plural, but I could use Elane as the gender, the non-binary one. That's cool. I like that. I probably will. Okay. Thank you. Good idea. What is misphonia? Misophonia there, Stretch? I don't know what that term is. So what is it about the interface that's bothering you? I just caught like a brief, like, glance, and now I've lost it. Okay. Oh, there it is. The saved icon now comes up on the screen in a fixed place instead of just the top bar. Oh, but I like that, though. I'm sorry you're having trouble with it. Speak to Dimmy, right, about it if it's bothering you. Right? I personally liked it because I hated having to scroll back up to the top of the screen to see whether it's saved or not. And now I don't have to. And I'm here for that, but... Eyes make me right button just in case the soapbox gets pulled out, says Esau. Yep. We're going to write in a moment. It's time for another sprint. When the sprint starts, I'm going to my break screen. I am going to take a bio, and then, like is my practice, we're going to use it as a sprinting timer, and I'm going to join the sprint when I get back. I'm almost finished that one chapter. I should be ready to publish it after that sprint, if I'm lucky. Unlurk. What about gender equality, says Twinkle? Yeah, I guess you heard my rant. Yep. Extreme Sai says, this is why it's something I commented on, and thank you for doing that, because you're right to catch up on it. My delve into creative writing has made me have a mechanism to try and understand non-gender terms. Straight white male in Alberta, pretty right-wing out here. Yeah, it totally is. The culture doesn't teach much about... I've spent a lot of time in Alberta. I visited a lot, especially for pagan festivals. I've done a lot of, you know, cons, things like that. Right? I have a lot of friends in Alberta, and yeah, I get that the culture really is very, you know, it doesn't have a lot of room for that. So if you have questions, do not hesitate to ask them. This is a good place to ask. People here will be happy to answer your honest, intended questions. Even if you don't have the right language for it, we understand, and we're not going to shit on your head about that. Right? We're going to try to help you have the right language. So, yeah, it's a good place for it. Daz says, I have gender inequality among Nobleborn's elites and equality amongst the masses. My orcs are very different. They're going to have a gender war. They don't know it yet, but that's coming down the pike. And a strict gender role among those nobles' elites. And that often happens, and it's one of the ways it enforces itself. Barbaros asks, why is it when I clearly describe something in words that I can't seem to type it out or struggle to write anything, I don't understand it? Oh, what a complex question. I don't know. Yeah. "100% Twinkle, I get you there." Okay, I'm gonna go take my break. We'll get back to the chat when I get back, and then we will do James's showcase. I'll be right back. And that is the sprint, and I am back. I'll keep up the chat time thing for a minute so that we can keep everything kind of on task here. Thanks for getting the bot, guys. I'm glad to hear that that AI was intentionally messed with, because I was very discouraged to hear that it had picked up racist and sexist language. It's very interesting, misokinesia and misophonia. I didn't know anything about them. I think perhaps my partner Jamie suffers from misophonia anyway, and somewhat misokinesia. Or I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but no, it's really interesting. And yeah, there might be a link to ASMR. I found that, you know, and this is kind of a rough estimate. It's not really a statistic that I know from a study or anything, but maybe 25% of people really like ASMR. I'm one of these people. And about half of people don't care one way or the other, and about 25% of people really cannot fucking stand it. And my partners are both that type, so I always have to listen with headphones. Yeah. The word bone was censored at a paleontology oh my god. Oh dear. Aries is a cool name, actually. There, Twinkle, if you want to go for it, that's neat. I mean, it is a god of war. Keep that in mind, but... I saw something here from Twinkle that I think needs to be read. Right? I'm full-on gender fluid, and it has nothing to do with gender expectation. Exactly. And more to do with, oh gods, this body is wrong, or this body will do, and it varies wildly by day. Yeah, that's what I finally came to the conclusion of, and that's why I figured, you know, because for me, I've got that too, right? Sometimes I'm like, you know, sometimes I really like it. Sometimes I feel really out of place. Honestly, if I were in the body I visualize myself with, I'd be about 5'10", and I would be, you know, athletically built. Like, I'd be like they always describe Artemis, right? But it's not what I look like. And, you know, I've come to like it to some degree for its own sake. But Twinkle says I was going to try using the name Aries, in places like coffee shops last year, but the pandemic happened and never got the chance to really give it a solid test. Well, hey, you know what? This is a nice online community, and you could always try it here. If you want to change your name to Aries so that I call you that, so you get used to whether or not you like it, this is a good place. Question, says Kayatan. What do you think about a non-demonic species, small lizard-like humanoids resembling kobolds, from hell, which was banished for rebelling against the devil and had to adapt to living on Earth? That's cool. When I do my military conflict article, says James, I hope I can go to Portsmouth so I can go and see HMS Warrior, as that is the type of ship they would have, an ironclad. I've never seen an ironclad either. I would really like to look at that myself. My orcs use ironclads, so... at least later in the war. Last time I tried that, says James, we went back into lockdown and I couldn't go to London. That sucks. I saw a real-life sailing ship at the Steveston Maritime Festival. I went and got on the ship. Okay, that's the growl of productivity about to start in a minute, so we'll switch back to the sprint page, and we will do James's article. Stretch. Arg! I hate ASMR! Yeah, that appears to be the link, actually. Yeah, some people, like, Aaron and Jamie would agree with you completely. They absolutely loathe it, too. Yeah, Miss Phonia is annoying, says Amelie. I like silence, but it's so difficult not to be bothered by noise. I wonder if perhaps my friend Rowan suffers from that too. She hates the sound of electricity buzzing in walls. It's one of the reasons why she likes to live out off the grid. Okay, Esong's gotta get to work. Nice to be with everyone for a spell. Stay warm. You sure you don't want to hang out with us and work, or are you going to be too distracted by the chat? I will try not to go off on a soapbox again, I promise. Lorraine says IID as cis female, but rail against society's assumed expectations. Yes. Yes, yes. Yes, yes, yes. My whole life is a litany of being told that this was not for girls, or being the only girl at the sausage party. Right? It absolutely is. And I'm so tired of the privileged guy who thinks he's the smartest guy in the room. Because chances are he's not. He may be the smartest guy in the room, but if I'm in the room, he's at least got competition as to who is the smarter. I know that sounds bloody arrogant, but, you know, I'm a pretty smart cookie. I pick up on things real quick. And I really hate being talked down to. I resent it on so many levels. Also, I really resent that whole, you know, women are emotionally weaker. I'm the toughest person I know, with the possible exception of my mother-in-law. So, deal with it. Yeah, I hate that so much. Stretch says, yes, I get triggered by the fan in my bathroom. The constant drone sound is horrible. During the shower is okay, but because the noise in the shower drowns it out, right? But it has a timer that goes on after it's switched off, plus it's the same switch as the light. Blah. My bathroom is right near my bedroom, so I can hear the drone while getting dressed, as the switch is outside the room, I sometimes forget to switch it off. I hate it. That is annoying for sure. I keep going back and forth on Aries and Orion, who, and this is true, changes gender depending on myth, says Twinkle. Yeah, that's true too. Orion does change gender depending on myth, and the constellation is generally associated with some kind of warrior figure, but that warrior figure's gender does change from culture to culture too. So that's very interesting. Either one would be cool. James says, I like ambience, but I don't like the whispering stuff. I do a lot, because I get like little tingly feelings at the top of my head, and I really like that. But, you know, I can totally see the link, you know, and probably both of them are due to oversensitivity to it, right? Like a sensory. It's probably related in some ways to the sensory issues that people with autism experience, right? Because I'm not exactly neurotypical, right? I don't know what my actual, like, I've got a little bit of ADD and a little bit of OCD and a little bit of autistic, mostly Asperger's type behaviors. And that could all be central post-traumatic stress disorder. So, you know, I don't know. But I get it, right? I'm not neurotypical, that I know. Oh, fluorescent lights. Oh my god, yes. I'm with you. I hate the sound of fluorescent lights, says Lorraine. Standardized test days were the worst in school because rooms had to be dead silence. Fucking rights. Oh my god. If my neighbors put on music, it's the worst sound for me, says Amelie. I hate having to listen to music when I don't want to. Oh yes. And people always put on very loud basses that give me a headache. Me too. And I can only think about how annoying they are and get a worse tension headache from that. I put on white noise or pink noise or ASMR to go to sleep. Weird Wind says, I have a white noise generator. Thank you for the posture check there, Barbarossa. To help mask all the strange noises this old house and the noisy road outside make. Aries Hope Orion last name. Good suggestion there, Lorraine. I find it funny when people want to talk down to me. I'm 6'4". Do you want a ladder? Says Stretch. I'm 5 feet tall. people, I guess, assume that they can talk to you like you're a child when you're 5 feet tall. I will take you out, motherfucker. Helps with tinnitus, the noise generator. Yeah, I experience occasional tinnitus too. Oh, you found the music with delta waves, says Amelie. Okay, cool. It's very relaxing and I like listening to it while I work, but I can't sleep with any noise at all, so I'm not even trying that. That's fair. That's fair. If you can't, then you can't, right? Maybe you could listen to it before you go to bed, and that'll get your body relaxed and into a state where maybe you are more likely to be able to slip into the deeper state of sleep and dream. And Siobhan says, white noise drives her crazy, but she needs noise to sleep. Yeah. Twinkle says, I'm ADHD and suspect some autism, but don't have the documentation to back that up. Me neither. Women are, people who present as women are often not diagnosed until much later in life because they're, for some reason, they always do all the health studies on men first. So they have no baseline for women, and the symptoms present differently, especially since we are forced to socialize often in ways that seem to mask autism, right? Like, we're not allowed to not listen to you, you know? It's a thing. So, yeah, I don't have any documentation to back anything up except the post-traumatic stress disorder and the seasonal affective. So, I have no idea. Yeah, stretches with me. I will take you out, motherfucker, which is why we get on so well, Sable. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, you and I are of a mind there, Stretch. It's a fact. Yeah. Oh, earplugs are good. I use that too. Sometimes the noise gets through anyway, yeah. When I'm traveling, I use earplugs. Yeah. Okay. Lorraine changed her name, taking on her stepdad's last name, and threw the bio-paternal surname away to be a middle name with the one that she already had. Yeah, that's cool. I was 12 when I was diagnosed, says Moon. You know, it's getting better. I'll point out that you're younger than both Twinkle and I, so I'm glad those resources are there now. They sure as fuck weren't when I was in school. You know? I just had to adapt. And I have managed to cope in many ways, but not well. Right? I would really like to actually get some therapy about it, but, you know, I go for therapy, and the way it works is that mental health is paid for when there is a desperate need in this country, right? But you have to prove there's a desperate need, and they go, you sound articulate, you seem fine. So. Twitch streams before bed probably don't help your sleep, Amelie. Thank you, Lorraine. Black Girl Lost Keys on Twitter had an article about some more reasons why female-presenting individuals are less likely to be diagnosed. There's a good video on that on YouTube as well. I don't remember the title or the channel, but if you type in autism in girls, it comes up. I think it was 14 or 15 when I was pronounced an Aspie. Says Julian, I like Aspies. I get along with Aspies. I'm probably an Aspie, right? You know, all that stuff about, you know, organizing your bookshelf in alphabetical order, and it had to be that way, that kind of thing. Not stepping on cracks. You know, I had all of that. Twinkle says, I have PTSD too, although mine has been easing off into more of a severe anxiety disorder, something that can usually be managed with medication. That's cool. I'm glad you're managing it. I put a lot of myself into my character, Shandar, who also suffers from post-traumatic stress. But for me, it's different. It has to do with... It's a long story. I'm not going to get into it right now, I guess. But it comes from childhood, right? And, yeah. Emily says, autism diagnosis also depends a lot on country. In France, we are genuinely, frighteningly backwards with all of that. Yeah, I hear you. I got sent into some weird place, says Delian, where I had to be without my parents for a few weeks. It was pretty rough for me, and eventually I complained enough that they took me out of there early and gave me the diagnosis. Well, I'm glad you got out of there early. There's much better coping mechanisms now, right? And the earlier that you receive assistance and therapy, the better you are at coping with the world outside, right? So I'm glad these resources exist. But yeah. Oh God. Oh yeah, that's a classic one there, Twinkle, and it's one of the reasons that made me go, this is probably, it's either this or central post-traumatic stress disorder. I suspect the autism because I am legit terrible at peopling, says Twinkle. I often don't know something I've said or done is wrong until someone gets mad at me. This is the story of my life. Then someone hopefully explains why it was wrong, but not always. That's totally, this is my life story, right? Chances are, if I've said something that has pissed you off, I don't realize that it's wrong and I don't know what I did. Right? There's a lot of unspoken rules in society that nobody explained to me and I don't just get. Right? So I have often been utterly embarrassed by my failure to comprehend these things, and to the point where I just cannot stand being embarrassed to this day, and I can't watch embarrassment comedies at all. I don't think they're funny, right? That Malcolm in the Middle shit. I'm out. I am out. It's terrible to be embarrassed. I'm mortified for the character. I don't even want to see it, right? So, yeah, story of my life. If I've said something that has ever pissed any of you off and you're like, what a bitch, right, or whatever, please tell me and explain what I've done, because chances are I really didn't mean to. Yeah. Oh, I'm glad you got a diagnosis, James. That's cool. Aw. Amelia's internet crashed, but you're back. Emily, I haven't missed anything. Secondhand embarrassment is the worst. Yes. Yes. Yeah, I get in trouble for TMI, even though I don't always know I'm doing it, says Siobhan. And I did too right into my 30s. I think I'm better at it now, but oh my god. Yeah. Yeah. Stretch says, yeah, I find a lot of comedy shows just make me cringe instead of laugh. Legit. Okay, well, I'm glad to know I'm in good company, guys. We can all be a little nuts together, and that'll be just fine. Us non-neurotypical people can get along just great. It's cool. I guess that's why I like this community. Seinfeld was just cringy. Oh, fuck, yes. I hated that show so much. I associate my TMI, says Extreme Psy, with my pedantic nature and perfectionism, need to be precise, which is actually an autism symptom too. That tends to be a thing about Asperger's in particular. Aw. Thanks, Barbarossa. Okay, I'm going to get on with doing James's showcase here. Sixes, the dice game. I'm going to put the link in the chat so that if you guys want to play, you can. Here it is. All right. Luck or strategy, luck. Type, tabletop game. Players 2 to 4, 2 recommended. Cost of the game. Game itself, 20 new sovereigns. Cost for parts per player variance. 1 player, 170 new sovereigns. 2, 320, 3, 490, 4, 640. I don't know that I'll ever fill out those, that kind of information. Article contents, you have an article table of contents, and your usual extensive acknowledgement section, which I really admire about you, James. Okay, sixes, the dice game. History. The tabletop game was originally played during the 2020's pandemic. As some people were unemployed, they became inventive with their time and ways to distract themselves or to entertain them further. Yep. It was originally played between friends when lockdowns eased, and later as a fun game with children or a casual game while on lunch break with colleagues. What it looks like when it's purchased. The game now comes in a bag containing a card measuring 12.5 centimeters by 20.5 centimeters, 5 inches by 8 inches. Yep. So that's about the size of like a legal piece of paper, right? The card on one side tells the purchaser what the game is called with a short description of the game. On the other side, not legal, letter. And that's the sprint for those of you working, and now it's the break. Okay, on the other side is what is needed to play the game as well as its rules. The bag has the side showing the rules covered as to make the purchase more likely. The game pieces are not included as it is assumed that the person or the person's parents or caregivers have the pieces already. If they don't have the pieces, the store selling the game will sell the items themselves. These pieces will be relatively cheap. Where is it played? The game is often played at home, however it is played in the workplace when colleagues are at lunch. The game is played more on the great day of celebration, but is also played on other days and occasions. Okay. Rules and how it's played. Instead of the game, which you've said a lot, occasionally put 6s in there so that the name sticks with people. The game is played over 5 rounds in which each player rolls their 3d6s. After rolling their dice, they will note down their score, if they won the round, and if they got any 6s for each of the 5 rounds. Divide your notebook page into 3 columns. Roll all 3d6s. I rolled 4, 3, 4 for a total of 11. For the total you got, put this in the left column, so I have 11. If you got any 6s, put the number of 6s in the right columns. At the end, compare the scores in the rounds. And there's 5 rounds, okay? The rule of the 6s. On a round where a player has the lowest score but rolls the most 6s, they win. On a round, so anybody else rolling with me here? James kind of was interested in us playing this. "11," says Sai. So you also have 11. Okay. Anybody else? Because we're tied. That's round 1. Okay. On a round where both players roll the same number of 6s, including no 6s, the player with the highest total wins. On a round where the number of 6s match, but the highest scorer for that round wins. On a round where the total scores match, then both players receive the round's points. On a round where the lowest person doesn't roll a 6, but the player that rolled higher did get a 6, the highest roll wins. Okay. In the middle column, for rounds which you win, mark with a 1. Those you don't win, mark with a 0. At the end of the game, the rounds you win, you add together. The player with the highest end score wins. Well, I don't want to do this for a whole bunch of time, but 3d6 says Sai. Yeah, that's what you roll. I got 18, says Twinkle. 5 for Amelie. Got 11 and 1 6. Alright, so it looks like okay. On a round where both players where a player has the lowest score but rolls the most 6s, they win. Since we had one person roll a 6, right? Daz, you win that round. Okay, let's roll another round. 4, 6, 2 for a total of 12. I have 12 and 1 6. Okay. 11 with 1 with a 6, says Sai. So currently I'm in the lead because we both got 1 6, but I'm 1 point higher than you. Am I right in playing this game, James? 6 now. What are those scores? I got 8. You roll 3d6. You add the total together. You note if you got any 6s. The person with the most 6s wins the round. If you have the same number of 6s as Sai and I did, right? Then you, the person with the most points between them wins the round. However, it looks like Daz won the round because she had 13 with 2 6s, so that's more 6s than either Sai or I. Oh, the first time I got a 5 total, now I got a 6, says Emily. Yeah, alright, so Daz won twice, god damn it. 12 total, 1 6, says Siobhan. That's terrible virtual throws. This is why I never roll virtual dice. Do it again. 1 1 2 or 1 2 2 for a total of 5. I'm pretty sure I lost that one. Oh, Twinkle had 3 6s in round 1 and 24 total rounds. 664, says James. So James is leading in this round. That's the sprint timer, the Dragon of Productivity, for those of you going back to work. Five, 4, 6. Yeah, James with 2 6s beats us all for this round. So 2 rounds for Daz, 1 round for James. Let's do it again. And we'll call it quits at this point, because basically I just wanted to play it long enough we get the idea. 3, 5, and 1 for a total of 9. For me, no 6s. $12 for the third round. 9, 0, 6s. So far, Amelie is winning with the highest number of points in this round, and nobody has any 6s. One, 3, 2 for Twinkle. Yikes. Thanks for the save check there, Barbarossa. Alright. That's fun, James. I totally get it. What a typical game looks like. A typical game is described below. This is what the players roll. The first table is what the players roll during the game. The second is what the scoring for the same game session looked like. And this is who won the round based on the number of 6s. Gotcha. I think it was more fun to see it in action. I get the idea, James. It makes sense to me, and it's kind of fun. Okay. Is it a gambling game? While not considered a gambling game, some people have tried to make the game interesting by making it so, since it is a game of luck and not of strategy. This is usually betting that they will get a higher end score or rolling more 6s. This is, of course, an adult variant of playing it. Yep. Other variants. A notable version of 6s is the Gregorius variant, in which the 6s column is on the left, not the right. In this version of the game, it is not the highest end score that counts for winning of the game, but the number of 6s a player gets at the end. Ah, that's interesting. It is the end score that is used in a tie-breaking situation at the end of the game. This is often played for those wanting a simpler variant over the base version. That's neat, James. There we go. That's cool. I liked it. Gregorius variant. Hint, writer Greg is now in my world. That's cool. I like that. That's neat. James says, in my Game of Thrones character story where it says I teach other people games, it's me teaching them 6s. I kind of want to invent a game in your world now, says Twinkle. That's cool. That's a cool little game. I like that. Expect soldiers to gamble over it. Extreme Size says, can I suggest that the rules be restructured to count number of 6s per person first? Because it's either most 6s or highest score in event of tie 6s, including no 6s. No, that's not exactly right, actually. their psi, right? The person who has the most sixes wins, right? That's right there. On a round where a player has the lowest score but rolls the most sixes, they win, right? On a round where both players roll the same number of sixes, the player with the highest total wins, right? So in that round where nobody rolled sixes, somebody won because they had 15 and everybody else had 12 and 11, right? But the round where one person rolled a 6 and nobody else rolled a 6, they won. So actually it's consistent. I mean, like, basically I'm saying it already has that adaptation. Yeah, so my suggestion was count sixes first. Well, he said to do that, I just didn't understand it, right? On a round where a player has the lowest score but rolls the most sixes, they win. You know what there, James, though? He's got a point, and maybe what you should do is, for your number one rule, you should say, count the number of sixes per person first, right? And then just put all these other rules in the order that they're presented so that people know right away it's sixes they need to be looking at before anything else. Which you'd think we'd be able to figure out by the name sixes, but I'm, you know, kind of dense, and I took a minute. Yeah. In my world now, says Twinkle, a game. I have 2 games that I have to invent, and I have no idea where to start. One is called High Queens, or Red Queens, right? And the other is called, I don't know, it's a counting game that I forgot. But I have to invent them both, and I haven't. Yeah. Yes, you did show your dice game you have in Darmoria before called Brucht, says Stretch. Yep. Do I want to invent a card game or a dice game? Good question. Okay, I have 8 minutes left of this sprint. I'm going to do them, and that should get my thing published, and then I'm probably... I realize we're pretty close to the time, but I might have to put up another break timer due to bio, but we'll have to see. Hint, Toil Book of Rules. Yep. Alright, I'm getting to work. As you can see, I did read the material there, Stretch. Alright. So I'm thinking I might make a special subscriber group here, right? Basically, it'll be something you can only access with the code that's at the back of the book, when the book is published that lets you read it on World Anvil anytime you want, because why wouldn't I do that? But I can't just make it part of Group A, I've read a few good elves, because that is a group that you self-assign, so I don't want anybody just coming in on the internet and deciding they're going to read my stuff, whether I want them, you know, whether they've supported it or not, right? So, you know, but if you've read the book, I want you to be able to come here and get all the information for the book. So you can just click, I've read a few good elves and have read it, but maybe there's a code. I don't know. I guess it's not really necessary because you always just assign that to yourself, and I can give you the ad. Yeah, I'll do that instead. I'll put the community hub link in the back of the book so that you can just read it for yourself whenever you want. That way, if you want to take your book and put it away, you can do that, and then you can just come read it on World Anvil, because it'll be the same book. I mean, right now it's still taking form, it's still under editing, so this is one of the reasons why it's a Patreon benefit, because they get to see it before anybody else does, right? Not that you guys aren't catching part of it as I work. Alright, now... And that's the sprint. Okay. I just realized it's 3:45, so I'm clearly not taking a break here. Alright, and that's that. Alright. Alright. Dice game sounds easier, says Twinkle. In my case, it would be an American game I want to invent, says Twinkle. The world I'm playing in currently takes place in an alternate Earth, California. I have non-humans. I haven't entirely decided what non-humans, but I have a few variants. There's probably other game types, but dice and cards are probably the easiest to figure out. I do have a game that I have written a little about, but not as its own article in this world. That's called Gnome Ball. You haven't encountered it yet. Gnome Ball is basically like rugby, except that you have a gnome who wears a suit that magically protects them from harm, that is made of leather and covered in handles. They're the ball. This was inspired by player characters in a D&D game. Are we surprised? Yeah. I even wrote about how it was invented. The ball is side 3, by the way. The gnome who is the ball, which is a position of prestige among gnomes, dodges both sides. Yeah. It's a good thing that they have magic that magically protects them from harm, because otherwise this would be a horrible game, but... Good night, James. Sleep well. I always feel guilty when people in my time zone go to bed, says Emily. Why? You know what? Like, I love the evening streams in my time, which is early morning for you guys, right? And I have my routine. Generally, I'll watch Coffee, and then Gala if he's on, and then Darth, and then Author Goddess. And sometimes I'll make it as long as Siobhan, but I usually drift off somewhere either at the beginning or the middle of Author Goddess's stream. Because, you know what? It's like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm tired, so... Okay. Extreme Size says, if one of your non-human variants has different anatomy, like fingers, toes, claws, modify an existing game by using a different base number system. right? If a species has a thumb and 3 fingers, make a dice game using d4s or d8s. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, it's technically sprint time, but I don't know what I'm going to do with my last 15 minutes. I don't really want to start on anything else. I have a vague idea involving polyhedral dice, but still very vague, says Twinkle. My main storyline takes place in a Renaissance reenactment village, so you know at least 1 out of every 5 people has a polyhedral dice set. Yes! Probably more like 1 in 3 has been my experience. I'm working from home tomorrow, so getting up 1 hour 30 minutes later than usual. I'm saying that as if I don't stay up for the stream anyway, says Amelie. Well, that's a good excuse. Extreme Psy is asking all kinds of very good questions about Twinkle's game. Yeah, the ritual article World Anvil prompt there, the ritual template is for a tradition, right? Tradition/ritual. So that is why games are under that category. Reminds us of our drill sergeant, says Daz. Put a cork in it and keep moving! Yeah, that's right. Because in the stars, war is a science adventure! Inertia, baby! Yes, that's a weird one. You're hilarious. I love it. I'm thinking this is a game that can be played alone or with as many people with a full dice set. Oh my god, Gnome Ball sounds hilarious, says Twinkle. Lord Galacron, hello, good to see you, says, I want Gnome Ball to be a thing now. The characters have had many, many hours of fun describing the playing of this game, right? They're all playing like these big, oversized fucking elves, or orcs, right? So these big guys, with a couple of really fast women in there, right? And they're always, you know, but they're still strong. They're warriors, right? They're as strong as the guys. It's just they're not these, like, massive, right? And, Siobhan was actually playing the character Belvard, who was the original Gnome Ball. And it was her antics that created this game, more or less. It was a lot of fun. Siobhan is really fun to game with, especially if you get silly. I started to stay up for coffee streams during the weekend, says Emily, which is terrible for my sleep schedule, but one of the things I'm looking forward to at the end of the week. I hear ya. Gnome Ball with ogres so the ball can move through the players, says Extreme Psy, yeah. Oh, yeah. I hear ya about the mother's voice there, Emily. It's not at all annoying, Extreme Psy. I appreciate people helping each other out in the chat, and I think it's interesting. Oh, games as rituals. Now I have some inspiration for that, says Emily. I'm glad that's helpful. Game? Gnome Ball? Anyone? Says Siobhan. Yeah. Oh, that's great. What did I write about it? Yes, that was in my holiday La Loki. That's what I wrote about. La Loki. Toy Soldier Saga. Loki's Night Tradition. Yes. Here we go. Okay, so Loki's Night, La Loki, right? I'll explain it briefly. In elf communities, there are none more respected or feared than the clergy. Oh yeah, actually, subtitle first. When an apple cart needs kicking, Loki's chosen don red and green boots. In elf communities, there are none more respected or feared than the clergy of the trickster god Loki. There are many reasons for this, but one is likely the tradition of La Loki, or Loki's Night. La Loki is a 24-hour period during which free license is given to play pranks and jests on a broad, organized scale. The whole community is fair game, whether they wish to participate or not. Indeed, it's common for those who are least enthusiastic about the tradition to be pranked the most. Yeah. Loki's worshippers believe the tradition was founded by Loki himself. This may well be true, because almost every elven community has their own origin story about the first time Loki came to them, some told in hushed whispers. Occasionally, Loki is said to have been joined on his exploits by Gob, the king of gnomes, Thor, Puck, Raven, or even Mab herself. Stories vary from lighthearted jests intended to raise spirits to enormously destructive pranks like stealing the sun. Oh god, interesting when the Illyri took the blade Gnome Ball? Yes, because the Illyri can fly. Right, so there's the article, right, and that's how it came about. And the first one I described here, if you want to read the rest of it, you can, but infamous Lolokia. Many Loki's nights have had lasting cultural and historical significance or have made it into popular legend. Here are a few. Location, Garness. Occasion, the Troll Wars. When the season's fighting ended, prophetess Lenniaris Moonchild and her gnome friend Belvarn the Ballmaster decided to take the soldiers' minds off the horrors of the wars. They declared Loki and started a food fight in a local tavern. A lot of soap was spilled while helping the tavern owners clean up. Belvarn strapped scrub brushes to his feet and skated in the suds. Attempts to grab Belvarn failed since he was slippery from the soap. This devolved into a game of Catch the Gnome, which became a tradition. Eventually, soap was abandoned for grease. When Belvarn was injured, friendly spellcasters protected him with force bubbles. But since that made him more difficult to grab, a leather suit was created for Belvarn to wear. This suit was outfitted with leather handles at all angles and imbued with a spell of invulnerability. This evolved into a complex game similar to rugby, except that Belvarn served as the ball, and he was allowed to evade both teams. The game became a popular pastime as others saw it and wanted to play. Other gnomes aspired to become balls themselves. Eventually, the widely popular sport Gnome Ball was born, which is still played between cities across known space in a formal competitive league. Yeah, so the purge but fun, says Extreme Sigh. Yeah, it can be. Yeah, if you read some of the other famous Lolokia there. I'm not making any of these up, by the way. These are all actually fucking happened and were played by player characters in this universe. I made up none of this. Right? It totally happened in game. So, I think it's really kind of fun. Yeah, certain spells were allowed for the ball only. Yep. Gnome Ball sounds like crazy good fun. I would really love to play Gnome Ball myself, actually. Describing it makes us laugh for hours. It's just great. When we need a tension release, then we do it. The frick happened there? I see I have to fix this article. Well, I can do that for 10 minutes. By the way, who are we rating? Is Gallo on? I'm not even on the right day anymore. Oh, there we are. Yeah, that always confused me during the game. Yeah. Gallo's on and Geeks is on. I believe we rated Geeks Anonymous last week, who is awesome. And if you're into RPGs, right, that is what Geeks Anonymous does, and they do it in a really awesome way. I kind of want to adapt it with FFX Blitzball. That sounds great. Okay, so we will not be rating Geeks Anonymous today, but they do some really awesome. They're a fairly new streamer. They could use your support. One of us Anvilite types. And also, I love the raid shout. that's where they are, if you want to find them. And then as soon as the sprint timer is done, we will be raiding Lord Galacrond, who is doing writing. Because that's what he does. Geeks is great, I agree. And Lord Gala is also great. So, we will watch Gala. Yeah. Alright. What the fuck did I do wrong there with my link? I think I better look to see where I went wrong because I don't remember. No, I don't know where things went wrong. There it is. Under the last stand of Lyra San Verbena. Okay. Oh, you know what? See, you can tell this is an older article. Because I didn't know I could do a certain thing. See, you can put whatever you want between these square brackets, and I didn't know that, so I tried. What I got here? I don't remember which one this is. Tovus and Nereus. Okay. Alright, let's see if that worked. Yeah, but it's a draft, so okay. And that's the sprint. So I guess that's it for today. Yep, both Gala and Geeks are online. Great. Twinkle says, I don't really feel like digital dice. Better get out my real dice for this and maybe we can play against the computer. That's cool. I think I have the basic rules of my game, says Twinkle. That's awesome. I look forward to seeing it on Sunday, perhaps. Right, so thanks for joining me, everybody. Just a reminder that I'm on tomorrow for Diane Actually Writes, where there will be a lot less talking, I hope. But not that I didn't have a good time. Thank you for letting me vent my spleen to some extent with something that's really been bothering me. You guys are a good bunch of people, and I really appreciate the fact that, you know, we can be real with each other. That's really a great thing. I really like it. Yeah, James started a thing. Games everywhere. That's right. Aw, Emily says, yes, more Sable tomorrow. Yes, I will be back. 2 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. GMT. Right? Runs about 3 hours. I may go a little later tomorrow night because I really want to get some stuff done. So we'll have to see. Depends who's on and how I feel. Right? Thursday night. Well, Friday morning, right? 12 a.m. PST, which is 8 a.m. GMT. Aaron will be back with Write with Aaron, 2-hour stream. Then I always forget that one, right? And I'm trying hard not to, right? But it's at a weird hour for us, and I don't know why I always forget it, but it's a good stream, and he's fun, and he did it to fill in a gap. So, you know, and he gets writing done, and I like writing with him, so check it out. It's cool, right? Friday afternoon at 1 p.m. PST, 9 p.m. GMT will be Ask an Old GM. That Aaron is back, right? On Saturday, we'll have our writing afternoon stream, 2 p.m. GMT. No, sorry, 2 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. GMT. Sunday, I'm back with Sable's World Forge and our Toy Soldiers game. All right. My game is called Tops. Awesome, says Twinkle. Daz says, yes, soapboxing is also a thing. It totally is. Pleasure to see you, Extreme Psy. I hope you're back more often. You were really an asset in the chat today. Thank you for helping everybody out and getting involved in the conversation, and I really appreciate it. Also, it's kind of nice to have some other Canadians around here. It's cool. So, yeah. Not that I don't love everybody from everywhere else. I do, but, you know, it's cool. Anyway. All right. Stretches off to watch some Netflix. Emily says, it's impressive how you managed to remember all those timings and in 2 different time zones. Lots of practice. Hero Forge has standards now? Oh my, okay, that's what I'm doing when I get off, because I'm totally checking that out. Thank you, Barbarossa, for the tip. Wow, that is cool. I've been using World Spinner. I love it, but damn, I gotta go check that out. Okay, we're going to go over and see Lord Galacron. So, we're going to type that in. Don't forget, when you get there, to say, just making sure I've got it spelled right. Okay, prepare to be boarded, because we are the Sable's privateers. And I hope I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good night, or day, or morning, everyone. And whatever your time zone is, I hope things are safe and well for you. If you're in Texas, my heart's with you. You want to talk to me about ways to protect yourself against the cold? Pretty much your Canadian friends will know. If they've never had to do it, somebody taught them in case they did. We'll be happy to help you. That's something practical we can do. So hit us up. All right. Have a good time zone, everyone.